Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you both. Maybe you could kick off with a brief introduction to this film, Burial. For people who don't know anything about it, what can they expect? Don't know if you want to...
Burial's a thriller based on the last days of the Second World War and a group of Soviet soldiers smuggling the remains of remains of Hitler out of Berlin. It's quite questionable what they're smuggling out of Berlin under secrecy, under orders from Stalin, and they get somewhere across Poland before they are set upon by lots of people trying to steal back the remains.
And there's so many films and books and literature about the Second World War and the aftermath, but this feels like a fresh take on it, or a unique story. So what was the inspiration for you, and was it based in any kind of rumors or fact? I don't even know. What was the jumping off point for you?
Yeah, it was the same for me. I read a footnote in a book about the Second World War about the fact that the Russian intelligence tried to cover up the fact that Hitler had killed himself, and I thought that was interesting, and I had not heard that before. So when you hear a story that you haven't heard before, you think, oh, maybe other people haven't heard that. Maybe there's some interest in that, and then just thinking about the ramifications of what that meant. It meant that keeping that secret and keeping that hidden meant that lots of people after the Second World War went on thinking that Hitler escaped. And I hate that idea. So I thought it would be nice to do a story where straight out of the gate you say, like, Hitler's dead, and this is all a story about what happened to his remains. And that's where it sort of grew from there. Yeah.
And just to bring in conversation, Charlotte, for you, reading that script, what jumped out to you, and was it the fact that it was this kind of unique twist on a story, or perhaps a period of time that we feel like we probably have seen on screen lots of times before?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something we've seen on screen a lot, but not anything I've ever had the chance to be a part of. I've never received any scripts like that. And it was very unlike, like you say, any kind of books or stories that I'd really read about the end of World War II. That really caught my eye. And the script is, from beginning to end, very tense, very suspenseful, and I thought that would be exciting. And then talking to Ben and finding out that that there were all these women that fought in the war, and I studied that at school, obviously, like most people have, that part of history, but I had no idea that like 800,000 women took part in the Soviet army. So I really wanted the opportunity to play that and to kind of tell those stories a little bit.
And it looks like it was an amazing character to be able to get your teeth into, both, like you say, in the fact that it was like a female soldier fighting in a very, very male dominated environment. People aren't maybe familiar with the fact that women were fighting in that way at that time, but and also getting into the kind of, I guess, the physical nature of it, getting into the period costume. So what was all the prep like, and what was it like actually having to play that on set?
Oh, it was so much fun. I mean, you've just kind of described it all. It's the beauty of kind of the action and getting really stuck in, but then also being able to base it on real women and do lots of research and kind of get into their head and headspace. And then just Ben was incredibly helpful, just being there all the time to kind of talk everything through and come up with ideas of how to make her believable and authoritative, and kind of see that evolution throughout the film where she does have to take charge over all these guys. So yeah, and then on set we had, like Ben said earlier, we had someone on set to make sure that we were holding the guns properly, that we were shooting the right way, that we looked like we were very familiar with all our weapons, and obviously had some gun training as well. So
And for you, Ben, what did that look like from your side? I mean, did you have to do a lot of extensive research? And it's always ambitious, and it's always an extra layer of challenge when you do have to set something in another period of time. So how was it having to execute all that?
Yeah, there's many sides of it. Two main sides of it. There's the sort of writing side of it, which you try to research as best as possible, always with a mind to push the entertainment, to push the thriller aspect of it. So making sure that I know the background of everything before I perhaps like break the rules or bend things. And then on production side, you know, making sure you're surrounded by the best people in your crew to, you know, kit out everybody with the right costumes. Production design was amazing and costume was amazing. So I mean, I worry about everything, but I didn't have to worry about those things because I had some great people looking after them. I wanted to make sure that in the script, things weren't painted as too straightforward and easy for Charlotte's character. I did want her to be surrounded by wolves, as she says in the film, and for that to seem authentic. That she's not, you know, having an easy ride at any point, and really portray how difficult it was. Even though, you know, there were women fighting for the Russians, it was very difficult and not particularly pleasant at times. And that's a tricky thing, walking that line of making sure that some things are portrayed as not pleasant whilst still trying to root for a group of people. The Russian characters are not entirely likable. There's good and bad in both of them.
Was there a particular moment on set that was particularly challenging or that you both remember enjoying on the flip side?
I think it was all challenging for me. No, there's lots of great, amazing days, and when you get past the sort of halfway point, you think I've got more in the can than I don't have in the can now, and then I sort of start to enjoy things a little bit more. And as we went on, the weather got a little bit nicer, stopped raining, sort of getting as cold. That was nice. Some really nice moments. We got to burn down a giant barn, which was fun. And then, I mean, challenging things, just, you know, getting the action done in the time that we had, night shoots, you know, out in the forest. That's all really challenging.
And for you, Charlotte, it looks like it might have been quite cold at some point, so I don't know.
It started off, maybe the first week was a little bit cool, but we were really prepared for it with our costume. And then it just started getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And we were like, oh my God, I wish I hadn't asked for so much in costume. And then the mosquitoes came out. But I mean, challenging wise, there's obviously lots of different little challenges every day, depending on what scene you're doing. And obviously the fight scene with Ilyasov had its own challenges because it's hard to make that believable where it's, you know, 6 foot Dan, and I have to kind of pin him down and then he knocks me down and I knock him to the ground, and to make that fight believable was probably kind of a challenge. And then probably controlling my huge gun as well. And I one day shattered some sugar cane glass that was really expensive. And I felt awful, and everyone was saying, be very, very careful, this is very delicate, it's very expensive. And it was like, okay, action, walk in, bam, with the end of my gun, and it just shattered everywhere. But I don't know if we got any of that and if that worked. And that
we did. I think most of it's in the film, but not the bit where you look at camera and go.
And maybe from your perspective, Ben, you can talk a little bit about your cast, you know, in particular Charlotte, of course, but, you know, there's kind of an ensemble, isn't it? And having all those pieces work together. And then, of course, right at the beginning, we also have Harriet Walter, I mean, you know, complete screen and stage veteran. So how you kind of put all these different people together to make a film work.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the ensemble nature of it. I think the challenge is making sure that each of those characters, with as little or as much as they have on screen, they become memorable without being cliched. You know, it's the worst fear of a writer and a director is that the economy of the scenes you're going to slip into to cliche a little bit, you know. And the good thing about Nazis is that you can afford to be a little bit more economic with your time, because everybody, they see that uniform, they go, okay, I know these are the bad guys. But yeah, working with the different characters was really, really fun. Working with Harriet it's like a masterclass for me. You know, I could just sit back and watch her act. You know, she does it very well, and she's been doing it for so long, and she taught me a couple of things. Yeah, it was very good.
And for you, Charlotte, working with your fellow cast, I guess you weren't sharing any scenes with Harriet, but I don't know whether you got to meet on set. No.
I didn't get to meet Harriet. We had our cast and crew screening, but everyone else was great, and it was fun getting to just boss a load of guys around, really.
Yeah.
And I got to work with Bill again, who I did The Lodgers with. It's a ghost story that we did like 6 years ago now, and we played siblings, twins. So it was just like having one of my best mates on set. So.
Having your twin back.
Yeah, having my twin back. My creepy incestuous twin.
And ultimately, what do you hope people will take away from watching it? Because, you know, there's this kind of slippage between, you know, what's real and what isn't. And it's asking questions about the duty of a soldier. And in that time, just after a war, where that starts and ends, it's kind of, you know, maybe making people reflect back on things and think of things in a different way. So, you know, what do you hope people take away?
What I'd intended and hoped for in the beginning was I'd written the script in 2016 when everybody was building walls and breaking borders and leaving unions, and there was talk of, you know, we've all been together since the Second World War, and we shouldn't forget that. So that was what I wanted to come across, and hopefully it does. But then I couldn't have foreseen stuff that happened in Ukraine, and you know, it's timely for that as well. I think the misinformation and people fighting for propaganda, and what happens when you discard the truth and choose something else. Hopefully people have an entertaining, thrilling ride, and then they can think on those things as well.
And for you, Charlotte, and I guess also, you know, bringing in that kind of female perspective as well, like, you know, how so much of that is true still to today, you know, like a lot of women having to be in a very male dominated environment and finding their way through it.
Yeah, and just generally war films, no matter what era they're from, they're just usually led by men and kind of for men as well. So I think it's just a way of showing that it can be led by a woman and still be for men and for women and for everyone. I hope people enjoy it, and I hope that they find it thrilling and unnerving and exciting, and that they feel very tense the whole way through, but also, like you say, that maybe it opens their eyes a little bit to this other side of history that we aren't taught so much, and what it is like for women when they're surrounded by all this testosterone in different kind of environments.
And if you could each quickly tell me what you're going to work on next, then have you got another film in mind? And Charlotte, have you got another role?
A couple of plates that I'm spinning. Hopefully one of them goes quickly. I've got a horror film with the producers of His House, which I'm really hoping happens soon, and another thriller, and then I've just stopped writing a script to do the interview, so I'm stuck in the middle of a script, which is really fun. That's the fun time, when it's all creativity and it's all coming straight out of your head.
And for you, Charlotte?
That's fun, but sounds so challenging. I mean, for me, script writing is the thing that I probably admire the most. Actually creating the whole thing from the beginning. I've just finished filming a series that I was on since April, called Who Is Aaron Carter. It's a Netflix show, which will hopefully be out next year.
Amazing.
Something else will come up exciting, maybe some horror.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and I can't wait for everyone else to have a chance to see Burial. Thanks so much. Lovely to meet you virtually. See you.